Welcome back to the Professional Hate Watching Association, episode 15. Nothing but pure and ethical hating today. I'm here with Daniel. My name is Ethan. A lot to talk about today, even though, as you mentioned in before we went live, that a lot of teams just haven't been playing recently.
Yeah. Yeah, the NBA
So,
Cup it throws the entire schedule off this point in December because if you're not playing for the Cup, then you're not playing at all.
so what's interesting is that I had a very similar conversation with another friend you and I had, which was how does the NBA Cup fit into schedule in terms of adding on games? Remember how we talked about this previously?
Yeah.
And I talked to another friend about this, and he goes, "Actually, I have no idea what games count and then what games don't."
Yeah.
And so it's only the final that doesn't count, isn't it?
Yeah, it's only the final that doesn't count. No, the stats don't count. The game record doesn't count. It's just whoever wins. But it doesn't hurt your record if you lose.
Interesting. Well, we have a result with the NBA Cup. The New York Knicks have won the NBA Cup that defeated the San Antonio Spurs to hoist their first trophy in the 21st century, which is kind of funny because they had to create a whole new tournament for the Knicks to win something, which I think is hilarious. But I know that Knicks Spurs, like those are two of the better teams in basketball right now. It makes sense they played in the final. Spurs obviously had to go through the number 1 seed in Oklahoma City, and the Knicks took down a fiery Magic team. What did you think of the game, or just maybe even as the Cup as a whole with the Knicks?
Going into the game, I honestly thought that the Knicks were going to win just because I think they're obviously a little more battle-tested of a team than the Spurs. And even though these aren't like real NBA playoff games, I get the feeling that the players treat them as such because when you watch the games in Vegas, they feel like real playoff games. You can feel that intensity. I felt that watching the Spurs Thunder game and then the Knicks Magic semifinal game, which like Orlando didn't really stand a chance in that game. But I mean, in terms of the Knicks winning, I think it's great for them. And I think both sides, and I don't know if we wanted to get into this right away, but I think both sides are like treating this as they should. If you're a Knicks fan, like I think you have every right to be excited about winning the NBA Cup. I don't know if you should be going out into the streets, like tearing down poles and stuff, but like you should be pretty excited that they won this cup because, like you said, they haven't won a trophy since the early 1970s. And this is the first thing of significance that they've won in this century. So if you're a fan, I think you have every right to be excited about it. Like, this is great. But if you're a player, I think they handled it well in that, yeah, they were celebrating after the game, but they know they're playing for more than an NBA Cup trophy. They're playing to win an NBA championship this year. So I think both sides are handling it exactly like they should.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just another point. The last time the Knicks even made an NBA Finals was the 1999 season. So as an 8th seed, by the way, which is hilarious. But you brought up an interesting point because you talked about how, you think that the fans and the players, the teams are treating it as is. But the Knicks, as you mentioned before we went live, the Knicks aren't going to hoist a banner for this. Your thoughts on that?
I actually like this as well. And I think it goes a little more deep into that point because the players know that there's more at stake than winning the NBA Cup. They know the goal of this season, it's finals or bust, especially when you look at the landscape of the Eastern Conference right now. The Pistons are still the 1 seed going strong. The Knicks just overtook the Raptors for the 2 spot, like you mentioned earlier. Toronto's still at 3, which is kind of crazy to think about because I think they've been struggling a little bit as of
late. They dropped 4 in a row, but they broke the losing streak against the Heat the other night.
Yeah. So, and speaking of Miami, like they're kind of falling back into place. They've lost 5 in a row, hovering in that play-in range.
Here comes Boston.
Yeah, the Celtics are picking it up, but I mean, like even without Jason Tatum, I think the Knicks should be better than the Celtics come playoff time. And you look at other teams in the East, Orlando's starting to get a little bit better, but I think the Knicks proved that they're a little better than them. Even though when they played on Saturday, Jalen Suggs had 25 in the first half, only scored 2 in the second half because he like literally couldn't move. He had some sort of hip injury, like he couldn't be out there, and he tried to gut it out. Props to him, but like he was hurting his team more than helping them by being out there. He was injured pretty badly, so he packed it in. But I mean, the Knicks have no excuse to not get out of the East this year. Like this should be their year, especially with the Cavs and how they've been struggling 3-7 in their last 10 games. And I think the Knicks know that by not hanging a banner, they're basically saying to everybody that, yeah, we're happy we won the NBA Cup, but we're playing for more. And I think one way that you also saw that too was after the game, while most of the players were celebrating, the Knicks players were celebrating, Jalen Brunson went straight to the Spurs bench and shook hands with all the players. Good sportsmanship, but I also think that's kind of his way of telling people that, like, this was cool, but like I'm playing for more than the NBA Cup this year, which I thought was great to see.
You're right, and to go with your point too, a lot is lining up. Of course, we still have a lot of basketball left to play in the regular season, but it looks like it's going to line up where, again, I talked about this in the prediction video to start the season, which if the Knicks don't win the Eastern Conference this year, I don't know if they're ever going to win the Eastern Conference with this core that they have going on. I mean, they're 9-1 in their last 10, which doesn't count the NBA Cup, or actually, no, I think it does. But you look at the other teams that are sitting around the top of the Eastern Conference with them. The Pistons have next to no playoff experience. They got their first taste of playoff experience last year. The Raptors with this core don't have anything more than a play-in game, not even a play-in win. The Celtics, of course, have a title, but I agree that the Knicks on paper should be a better team than them in a 7-game series. The Magic don't have much playoff experience. This iteration of the Sixers doesn't have much playoff experience. The Hawks have next to nothing. The Heat are kind of random, but you just never know about them. And then the Cavs are falling off. Yeah. The Cavs obviously don't even have that much playoff experience themselves. They never get past the second round. So I think that a lot of it is lining up to where this is going to be a really good opportunity for the Knicks to go deep into the playoffs and win the Eastern Conference. And I agree with you where they seem to have that mindset as well, based on how they treated the NBA Cup. They didn't show any disrespect to it. They took the trophy and they accepted it gracefully. But they also gave off the vibe that this isn't the end goal that we want here. But you've mentioned this previously when you were talking about ammunition for Thunder haters, when we thought the Thunder were going to win the Cup. The 2 previous NBA Cup champions have lost in the first round. But those 2 teams hung up banners. So maybe the Knicks are maybe they understand the situation that they've put themselves in by winning the Cup.
This is true. And I'm honestly a little surprised. I know I just praised it, but I'm a little surprised that the Knicks aren't hanging up a banner. Because
me too.
I figured that if you haven't won a title since like 1972, 73, whatever year it was, that you would want to hang something up in the Garden after winning what is like still a pretty like significant tournament that the NBA has made it out to be. So that was surprising to me. My point about the last 2 Cup teams losing in the first round, I think like, if the Thunder had won the Cup, I wouldn't have felt as strong about that. But like we just brought up that the Knicks, you rattled off all those teams in the East that like the Knicks honestly should beat, given how everyone's looking this year. Even Detroit, like I would throw them in that category. If the playoffs started today, I would like hesitantly pick the Knicks to beat Detroit. But what was I gonna? I completely forgot what I was gonna say.
I just think that. Let me try and pick up where you left off. I just think that it comes from the fact that the Knicks have more playoff experience. I do think that the Pistons really could give them a run for their money. And, in order for these playoff teams to break through eventually, they have to get experience. But there's always that one series where they announce their arrival. And maybe the Pistons have they announced their arrival by beating the Knicks this year, for all I know.
True.
On paper, I mean, they don't play games on paper. They play them on the court. But it shapes up as we hit around the Christmas point of the season that Knicks are going to have a very favorable Eastern Conference. Unless there's a major shakeup with an injury or trades at the deadline. I know that we're keeping an eye on the Giannis trade, of course. A Giannis trade to, say, Miami, for example, could really shake up the Eastern Conference. But as it stands right now and as the games get started up again post-Cup, it looks like the Knicks are going to have a very favorable inside track, I think, to winning the Eastern Conference, especially if Cleveland's not good. I
agree. And what I was going to wrap up my point with by saying there is, if the streak is going to continue with a team winning the Cup and losing in the first round, I feel like the Knicks would be that team to continue the streak, because you look at all the teams that they're supposed to beat in the East this year. You think they should beat them, but you just never know with them. They might give you some disappointment. when it matters most. Because I know the Pacers beat everybody in the East last year, and who knows how that series would have gone if Halliburton didn't make that the game winner in game one, or the game tying shot in game one that bounced off the rim all the way back in. Like if the Knicks win that game one, they don't blow like a 20-point lead or whatever it was. Who knows how the rest of that series goes? But like the point is, the Knicks should have won the East last year. Like when they knocked off Boston in the second round, that was their chance to get to the finals. And I don't know if they would have beaten the Thunder. I don't know if they would have played the Thunder as well as the Pacers did, but that was their golden ticket to the finals, and they blew it when they couldn't beat Indiana last year. So,
you would argue that the year before they could have had a crack at it too. I mean, they lost to the Pacers in 7. Jalen Brunson's hand practically fell off in that game 7. So
yeah,
I think that the Knicks have had 2 good chances to compete, like last year, especially to win the Eastern Conference, because you're 4 wins away from the Eastern Conference crown and going to play the Thunder. I agree that I don't know if the Thunder, if that series is as competitive, because the Pacers were running on some sort of witchcraft, but they cracked the code.
Yeah.
And I'm not disrespecting the Pacers, but I will say this. Actually, I'm kind of giving credit to them because they're not going to be – it looks like they're not going to be anywhere near this playoff race for the Eastern Conference crown. So
I think they're like tanking without like trying to look like they're tanking. Like
they're not retooling, they're reloading.
Yeah.
You can't – there's just a really nearly impenetrable ceiling that you put on your own team when Tyrese Halliburton isn't available to play. So but that's my point, though. The Pacers are like the boogeyman for the top Eastern Conference contenders historically, like in the last 2 years. So now the Pacers are going to be nowhere to be found. Obviously, the Celtics don't have Jason Tatum, but that's the only Eastern Conference team that's won a title as of recently. So that's like, again, the Knicks, I'll just end like, again, the Knicks look like they're going to have a good inside track based purely on their experience, in my opinion, but not just experience, but because of the talent roster that they have. Like Jalen Brunson's been the captain of the ship for 3-4 years now at this point. At some point, you got to get to the finals, bro.
Yeah.
And I think that unless something really like shitty happens with, again, an injury or something, if they're able to stay overall pretty healthy, they should theoretically, the Eastern Conference should be theirs to lose. And you can see that with the run that they're on right now.
Yeah. I mean, just bottom line, there's just no excuse to not win the East this year. Unless a Giannis trade happens, I don't really see how the Knicks can't win the East this year, because I think their biggest threat would be Detroit. But like you're saying, we don't really know if they're built for like deep playoff basketball.
They gave them a run for their money in last year's playoffs.
Yeah.
So that was an overall pretty competitive series. And I don't think Detroit's a fluke 1 seed at all. Like this isn't some 2021 Utah Jazz type beat, or dare I say 2024 Cleveland Cavaliers type beat. But I do think that the Pistons are a legit team, and a 7-game series where you got to play 4 of the 7 in the Motor City, that's going to be tough. Like I'm given, like, I think, like, I know a lot of the greatest movie franchises go in trilogies. Dare I say we might get a Bad Boys 3 with how this team is playing. Yeah. But again, with the Knicks roster that they've built up, even at, like, I know we have talked previously about a potential Giannis trade, but like, let's say they don't get a Giannis trade, because I think their roster right now is pretty well constructed. With the roster you got right now, you got to go win that series. Yeah, there's just no other way to describe it. You just got to go win that series.
With the Pistons, they still don't really have. I know they're better this year than they were last year, and last year they gave the Knicks a run for their money. They still don't have, in my opinion, a bona fide number 2 option next to Cade. I know Jalen Duren has taken a big leap this year, but I'm not sure that he is a 2 on a championship team.
I think the jury's still out on Jaden Ivey, for example. He obviously was out for a long time with injury. Yeah. But I think they're just waiting to see. Again, it could be a situation like the Thunder 2 seasons ago. They were the 1 seed, but then they lost in round 2. Yeah. The eventual the Western Conference champions. It could be something like that. And even something like that, I would consider as a big step forward for the Pistons, because, again, this team did not sniff playoffs at all, much less playoff success until last season.
Won 14 games 2 years ago.
So like, even where they are now is a meteoric rise. Like, so many teams don't see this.
Yeah, they're
Like,
probably a little ahead of schedule in terms of where people thought they were going to be.
And
I mean,
without a number 2 option, like how you're saying,
yeah,
like a bona fide number 2 option, that's impressive. So,
yeah.
but again,
And their
though,
best player, like Cade's only 24 years old, so like
there's no
have
bona fide number 2 option. The Knicks have a bona fide number 2 option. Go win that series. But enough about the Knicks. I want to talk about. We talk winners first, but I want to talk about the losers of the NBA Cup, which were the Spurs. You know, a pretty valiant effort, especially the means and how they got there, because you know they took down the Lakers in the knockout round, then they took the Thunder, which you and I both kind of scratched past. And we were like, "Oh, dude, the Thunder are winning the cup." Like, and then
we both said that like it was a done deal. We were like,
I just
set it on 3.
The Thunder have been a buzzsaw all year, but you know what was interesting? Did you like how much of that game did you watch?
The Thunder game?
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I only watched because I wasn't able to watch it at home. So I caught the end of the game when Jalen Williams was at the free throw line trying to miss it on purpose. And then Caruso got fouled on the putback attempt, but they didn't call it. And then the game ended. Like that's
okay. So you saw the controversial call.
I was following the game though, the score.
But you saw the controversial call.
Yeah, I did.
So is that a foul? Did they miss a foul there?
I think it's a foul, but I think it's one of those fouls that you can't call it at the last second like that because guys are being competitive and going for the ball. And like also, so what? Like the Thunder get away with so much contact on defense all the time. Like, so what they didn't get the foul call?
That's what I was going to
Nobody's going to feel sorry for the Thunder, including me, that they didn't get that call.
That's what I was kind of getting at here because it leads into my other point that I wanted to talk about. But, you know, you talk about how the Thunder are playing a different sport on defense. And I mean, I always go back to, I don't know if you remember this. I always go back to that clip where, oh my God, who was it? Was it Lou Dort? I can't remember. A Thunder player in the finals. The Thunder player is grabbing TJ McConnell's wrist.
Sounds like Lou Dort. Yeah.
And he's right by the ref, and McConnell's literally pointing to him like, dude, he's grabbing my wrist. This is a foul. So I know it might have been Casey Wallace. I can't remember, but the point is, like, that is the epitome of what people complain about with Thunder's defense. Yeah. And it just did not work versus Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah.
And I know you didn't watch much of the game live, but I did. It just did not work against Victor Wembanyama, which of course it's not going to work against a 7'5" center. Like,
yeah, one of my favorite moments from that game, I did see this clip when he hit that shot over Alex Caruso, then gave him a little stare down afterwards. And even in that clip too, like Caruso's hacking the hell out of him. You can see him like trying to hit the ball out of his hands, but like gets wrist, I think like once or twice, like blatantly you can see it. Like he definitely fouled him. And I don't remember if they called the and one or not, like when he made the shot, but and that being Wemby's first game back from injury too was pretty impressive.
And he came off the bench too.
Yeah, coming off the bench because I'm sure he's on some sort of minutes restriction as they ease him back into the lineup.
Yeah. And so obviously Wembanyama hasn't played, like he's been out recently, but he had some comments. This is what I was getting to. He had some comments after the OKC victory, and he said, quote, "I'm just glad to be part of something beautiful, pure and ethical basketball," implying that the Thunder don't play ethical hoops. Now, I know you and I've talked about this. We've talked about this previously I've made the joke about basketball versus hoops. Like I've made that joke before, and I put the Thunder in the basketball category because I don't think they're fun to watch. I don't think that, obviously that is not subjective. That's purely objective. I only work in objectivity here with basketball, but it's interesting to see Victor Wembanyama, one of the brightest stars in this game, seemingly openly call out the Thunder for what you would think is being like foul baiters and all of that. I mean, Wemby did backtrack, or he followed up about his comments, and he goes, quote, "In modern basketball, we see a lot of brands of basketball that don't offer much variety." Sounds like a non-answer to me. Still sounds like a Thunder like call out.
Yeah. No, definitely.
And I'm not faulting him for it. I'm not going on here to grill him for it, because I think he's saying what's on a lot of people's minds. You see all the clips. I think defense is one thing. I actually am not necessarily against how the Thunder. Okay, this is going to sound bad, but I'm not fully against how the Thunder play defense. I just that was more universally allowed for other teams. I think that's the weird part, is that there's like weird exclusivity with how they don't call Thunder defensive fouls and they call other people's defensive fouls. But the foul baiting on offense is like, did you see the clip of SGA taking a 2, and
I
he
did
literally
see that.
like I think it was Champagny who was guarding him, and
Yeah,
he literally like unnaturally leads his feet into the landing space to create a
yeah,
foul. It was insane.
I did see that, and
Champagne
they called it a
went straight
defensive
up,
foul.
straight down.
Yeah, they called that a defensive foul. I did see that clip. At the end of the day, all NBA players, like everyone's a fan at the end of the day. And I think
Yeah,
Wemby was just speaking for the fans and what we all see, because the Thunder's brand of basketball it's not pretty to watch, especially in today's day and age when you have all these high flyers who can jump out of the gym, hit threes all over the place. Their best player is in love with the mid range. It's like the guard version of Kawhi Leonard. Like the guy loves the mid range. Like
he's DeMar DeRozan, the sequel.
Exactly. And like SGA, like not that fun to watch if you're not a diehard OKC fan, because it's a lot of mid range. It's a lot of soft foul calls, because like I say time and time again, he knows how to manipulate the refs. He knows how to manipulate the rules, because foul baiting, as much as people hate it, is a skill, because there's a lot of speed, like change of direction involved to like get guys to swipe down on you, like stop and start. Like it's all of that's involved. All those guys on the team, like Jalen Williams, like all of them play a role on that team, like around Shea. And I think like one thing, honestly, that like people might not like about the Thunder, like their post game interviews when Shea's being interviewed post game. I don't know. It's just something about every single game when all those guys are there, just like for what it's worth. Like we're gonna call it, they're glazing him. Like they're just glazing him every single time after he's getting interviewed after the game. Like, and Draymond brought this up last year before they won the title, and obviously he was wrong about it, because he was like, I don't know if they're ready to win a championship because there's there's a certain maturity element that's involved. And he thought they were
Draymond's one to talk about maturity.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously he was wrong about that, but like, I don't know. I just feel like fans don't, and especially, and it doesn't help that after the game, the Thunder were complaining about being fouled at the end of the game when they're allowed to play such a physical branded defense that other teams can't seem to get away with. And I think part of that is because like the Thunder have somehow established, like, and this is to their credit, that every single game they're going to be a tough physical defensive team. So I think that goes into the refs' minds when they're officiating them, because the Thunder have this persona, or they've developed this brand of like really, really physical defense that lets them get away with stuff that other teams aren't allowed to get away with.
And again, I got to be careful how I say this, because you're right. I can't really get upset at SGA and the Thunder for doing something that the NBA is just allowing them to do. They're not necessarily breaking rules. They're just making it really awkward, because the NBA is allowing them to foul bait and play tough defense that other teams just aren't allowed to do. Mm-hmm. I hate to make this about, actually, I don't hate to do this, but like, I don't always want to do it like this, but can you imagine, dude, what if Stephen Curry got calls that SGA got? What if Giannis got calls that SGA got? Like, obviously the Giannis is a little bit different because he's always driving to the rim, so you would argue that those are more mandated, but they just don't, like, those calls aren't universal. And in a league where it's the best talent in the world going up against each other, there's a level of uniformity I feel like you could establish, and yet there is none. You're right. The SGA and the Thunder just, they know how to play the foul baiting game. I would agree that is a skill, but the NBA allowing this to happen is just insane. I think that's what a lot of people need to target their frustration more towards. And I'm guilty of this as well. I kind of just point the finger at the Thunder because they're the players, but I can't hate the player. I got to hate the game.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fully on the league allowing it to happen for sure. Because if the refs, on the offensive side, if they're going to reward the Thunder for foul baiting, or I guess SGA in particular, he's going to keep doing it. And then if on the defensive side, they're going to be allowed to get away with basically playing football. Like I keep saying Lou Dort's playing the wrong sport, mainly him. Like I don't mean to pick on Lou Dort, but like the biggest culprit in all this is Lou Dort. Like that dude, I don't know why, like he's playing it. He should have shoulder pads on and a helmet on Sundays. Like he's playing the wrong sport. Like he's a decent basketball player, but his physicality on defense is almost football-like. So don't get mad at the Thunder, like you said. Get mad at the refs for rewarding them for taking advantage of how they're being officiated.
It's like a whole team's work. This is kind of apples to oranges, but it's the same. We had the same debate with prime Rockets James Harden in 2017, 2018, which you remember those jumpers where he'd shoot and then flail as he was getting a hit.
Yeah.
Like same thing, except it was just a long range triple. So nobody knew at the time, like that was the peak of the 3-point revolution. Yeah. So nobody really knew how to, to call fouls on, like they just kind of just opted to just continue calling fouls. Yeah. Whereas now, like, dude, the mid-range game has literally been the only thing that's existed in basketball since the beginning of basketball. Like, it was layups in the mid-range to start the beginning of basketball. So, yet they can't call the fouls correctly. I think, it's just frustrating.
You just brought back like core memories. I think it was the second round series, the conference semis in 2019. So the season KD got hurt, his last season on the Warriors, when the Rockets and Warriors played in round 2. And I think it was game 1 because it was at Oracle. It was the game that D'Antoni and Harden were complaining a lot after the game because Harden was like, I don't think it's necessarily the flailing thing you were talking about, but it was more so the kicking his legs out on 3-point attempts, trying to draw fouls the whole time. I think a good amount of them were on Draymond. I don't know if you remember this, but it was like they were complaining about it a lot after the game. And that kind of like, because that series went, I think, 6 games.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
Steph Curry shut him down at Toyota Center in game 6.
Yeah, it was a close, because Curry had, 33 in the second half?
Something like that, yeah.
After not scoring in the first half, like he just went crazy. But game 1 of that series was like, you saw like Harden not get rewarded for his foul baiting tactics. But it seems like Shea is being able to do the same stuff he's getting away with the same stuff in the playoffs that he is in the regular season.
Which I didn't know if that ever was going to happen. That's the crazy thing. Yeah. Like the whole thing about the Harden dilemma and like, even like, again, I mentioned him earlier, like DeMar DeRozan, for example. The whole thing was that, they're great regular season performers, but they don't always get the calls that they want in the playoffs because the playoffs are more difficult. And, you can have your own gripes with that as is, because I would argue there shouldn't be a difference in officiating between regular season and playoffs, but I digress. So that was the thing with SGA. I was like, I thought, okay, whatever, he gets his points like this, it's great or cool, whatever. He does what he needs to do. That's not going to work in the playoffs, historically speaking, but it does.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just interesting.
What makes him so special, man? I don't get it.
I don't know. I don't know. The whole thing, like, I understand SGA is a great basketball player, and he has a skill that a lot of players don't, which is, being able to draw fouls. But you mean to tell me that Stephen Curry isn't on the same level of SGA as drawing fouls? This is the greatest point guard of all time, bro. Of course he knows how to draw fouls, and yet we don't see the same response. I don't know. I'll talk about Steph Curry in a little bit, but what I first want to talk about is, history. They say history doesn't repeat itself. I would argue it's different. The Miami Heat are back in the play-in again. It is only middle of December, but I do think that's kind of funny. They've dropped 5 in a row. If they're going to make a trade for Giannis, bro, it's going to happen soon.
We can't leave out the Bulls being back in there too. I think we brought it up last week.
Well, they were the 1 seed for a quick minute to start the year, yeah. And but the gang's back together. The only one they're missing is the Hawks are there too.
The Raptors decided to like be like a competent basketball team.
They swapped for the Cavs. They literally took the Cavs spot.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about the history. History does repeat itself because the Heat are back in play-in territory again. I would argue if they're going to make a trade for Giannis, I think it's going to happen before MLK Day, probably, just because you got to go do it. But you got to get your first-round pick back. But history is also repeating itself because LeBron James just can't shake the rival. I wouldn't even call it a rivalry. It's just the beef that he has with Dylan Brooks, bro. Like, you saw all that, right? You saw the clips. Like, you brought up a point about LeBron's whole career and Dylan Brooks being the one guy that seemingly get under his skin.
Think about this when it comes to LeBron and Dylan Brooks, right? Like, I just thought of this right now, and this is crazy. LeBron's been in the league for 23 years, and obviously he came into the league, called himself the chosen one, got it tatted on his back. So literally on his back, the chosen one. So he's had a target on him forever, and everyone has tried to go after him. You had Lance Stevenson blowing in his ear during the Heat Pacers days in the conference finals. You had this man, Isaiah Stewart, like literally tried to murder him on the basketball court after the whole like elbow incident. Even guys off the court, like Skip Bayless, for example. This dude has been trying to get LeBron's attention for 23 years, literally a quarter of a century. LeBron has not acknowledged him once. Skip Bayless literally goes on TV and podcasts and openly says, like, I've canceled dinner date nights with my wife to watch LeBron Lakers games. Like that man is obsessed with LeBron. But Dylan Brooks, for some reason, is the only dude in 23 years that has been able to get under LeBron's skin. It started in 2022 with that Lakers-Grizzlies series when they were going at it. I don't remember which game it was, but even before, because during the playoffs, during the series at least, teams don't talk. Like, they don't shake hands after games. They don't do any of that until the series is over in the postseason. There was a game, it was one of the games at Crypto when LeBron and Dylan Brooks were actually like talking pregame. And I don't know if they were arguing or something, but I think LeBron probably went up to him and he was like, yo, you need to tone it down with whatever you're trying to, with whatever mind games you're trying to pull, like all of that, just like cut it out. And like, obviously Dylan Brooks didn't listen and LeBron did his thing in that series. That was if you see me in a fight with a grizzly bear, help the bear. Like that was that series. So, and then I don't remember, like, that was the main thing. And I'm sure there was other stuff too, and then there was earlier this year when they played Phoenix, like Dylan Brooks after the game was like, LeBron wants other people to bow down to him or something like that. And then this whole situation is just crazy because I think, was it LeBron or Dylan Brooks driving the ball? I don't remember. Someone gets fouled, and then I think it was LeBron because Dylan Brooks threw the ball off of him or whatever. Got a tech, and LeBron should have been ejected. We were talking about this before we started recording. He should have been ejected from the game because he put his hands on an official multiple times, which you're not allowed to do. That's supposed to be an automatic ejection in the NBA. And he got away with a tech because obviously it's LeBron and they're not going to eject him in that situation. And then later in the game, they had the situation where Brooks put up a three, thought he got fouled, and went up to LeBron and chest bumped him. And then he got ejected because he had already picked up a technical foul earlier in the game. So I'm just saying, man, I don't know what Dylan Brooks did, but he cracked the code because 23 years in the NBA, everybody's going to be going after this dude. And he is the only one, I swear to God, who has ever gotten any sort of reaction out of him for anything. So I just think it's hilarious.
I want to you did a good job at putting it into perspective I think it stems from this idea that the NBA and its players aren't scared of LeBron James, which I go back and forth on that idea because I think it's complete BS. I think the idea of NBA players not being afraid of LeBron James is actually insane because I think why it took 23 years for somebody to get under his skin is exactly because of that. Just because people try LeBron and try to get under his skin doesn't mean they're not afraid of him. I would argue it's a projection tactic because you're not going to beat him skill-wise. Think about all of the players historically. Just think of the players. I know you mentioned Skip Bayless because that was hilarious. You're absolutely right.
I had to throw that in there.
It goes all the way back to like Deshaun Stevenson on the Wizards. There's a pull.
Yeah.
It goes back to the big three in Boston. It goes back to Joakim Noah. It goes back to Lance Stevenson.
All those guys. Paul Pierce, Joakim Noah.
It goes back to everybody was coming for LeBron in the early 2010s. How could you not? He was on the Heat. He betrayed the NBA.
Yeah.
That was a lot. I know people talk about 2018 Bron being the best version of him of all time, and there's a case for that. Dude, Miami Heat LeBron James, after that first loss versus this first season where they lost to the Mavs in the finals, the next 2 years of LeBron James, I think arguably is the second greatest player to ever touch the basketball, besides like 1988 Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
That era, that version of LeBron James that's why people came for his neck, bro, because nobody could beat him on the court. So I think the reason why Dylan Brooks is able to succeed at this is because LeBron is no longer the player that he once was. So it's a little more of a touchy subject. It's a little more vulnerable. Yeah. Everybody can see that he's no longer the same player. LeBron damn sure knows that he's no longer the same player. He can feel it. But that doesn't mean that he's a bad player by any means. He's still, I would argue, a top 20 basketball. Like, he's a top 20 player in the league still on any given night.
Yeah.
But that makes the same messaging that has been around for 23 years sting just a little bit more, because now it's just a fraction of a little more true. I think Dillon Brooks, what was interesting is that after the game, he was talking about this. He goes, quote, referencing LeBron, he's a social media junkie. I wish we would have let him shoot that shot and that shit would have been an air ball.
Yeah.
I'm like, LeBron being like fake tough. They were talking about, they were just waiting for the refs to show up so he could look like he could do something. Brooks didn't say that, but that's been discourse online. Now, I think there is some merit there, because I do think LeBron calling him a social media junkie is crazy. But I do think that there is some merit there, because again, LeBron James is bigger than basketball. He's the biggest. I would argue. I know Jordan is Michael Jordan. He's referred to as just his last name, but LeBron is referred by just his first name.
Yeah.
So there obviously LeBron has much more to stand for and subsequently lose than just on the basketball court. So I don't think there's that what Brooks is saying is false, but I think the fact that he's been the greatest basketball player of 2, maybe even 3 generations, and now is finally slowing down. I think that's what really makes it like his Dillon Brooks' words seem a little more like getting under the skin.
Yeah, that's a good point. I actually didn't think of it that way. And I think it actually, it reminds me of what I was saying last week when we recorded about guys kind of going after Klay Thompson nowadays, because he's clearly not the same player that he used to be. So guys now feel like it's easier to attack him because they don't have to worry about a prime Klay dropping 60 points in 3 quarters or something like that. And then they don't have to worry about LeBron going 2018 mode or 2013 mode. That basically they just feel like there's no consequence to what they're doing.
Exactly.
These guys are washed and they don't have to worry about them retaliating on the basketball court. So it's a bad look for these players, because a little bit of it is like, you would never say shit like this against these guys in their prime, because what the repercussions would be.
Exactly. And I think that's how it's been previously. That's why I don't believe that NBA players aren't afraid of LeBron. Former players talk about this. I don't believe it. Every time an NBA player in the past would talk about LeBron, try to get under his skin, he held them accountable. Deshaun Stevenson blew him out in the playoffs. Joakim Noah, he never beat him in the playoffs. The Celtics, the big 3 Celtics, he took them down once he went to Miami. Like, there was the shift in the power dynamic. Lance Stevenson didn't do anything. It took Victor Oladipo pushed LeBron further in the playoffs. But now, because LeBron is no longer the unanimous number 1 player or top 3 player in basketball, guys like Dillon Brooks can say these things and not worry about as much accountability, if any. In reality, Dillon Brooks' comments are not any different than what people have said in the past. They're just modern versions of it. Social media junkie, like, they've said that in the years past, because again, you talked about he has the chosen one tatted on his back. Same energy, but just in the modern era. So I think that's the root of it. But I think the difference between LeBron versus the Klay Thompson, John Morant situation is that Klay Thompson has been unanimously overall been a well-liked player, even though he was on one of the most dominant team ever, one of the most dominant dynasties ever. He was a well-liked guy outside of basketball, outside of the Warriors. So seeing him getting trash talked by a player that has more or less not proven anything compared to him, more fans are going to more flock to Thompson's side, whereas LeBron has been polarizing since the moment he got drafted by the Cavs. So automatically there's going to be a crowd that is going to defend LeBron for multiple reasons. One reason might being what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And then there's others that are immediately just going to agree with Brooks because they just don't like Bron. So I think that's the main difference here. But I do feel like there's a level of merit there because, again, LeBron's not going to hold you accountable anymore for 20 and 20, what he did to Brooks in the playoffs, bro. Like, that's not happening likely. I'm not going to rule it out, but that's likely not happening against you on any given night in 2026 anymore. So
true.
It's just bench players talking like starters. I hate it. Even though Dylan Brooks is a starter for Team Canada. So I got to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I guess when you get the chosen one tatted on your back and literally call yourself the greatest player of all time, you're kind of forced to welcome the backlash that comes.
Oh yeah, and I think LeBron.
I think it's a two things can be true thing. It's like, dude, Dylan Brooks would not be talking like this if this was LeBron, even not even like 2013. If this was LeBron like 5 years ago in 2020 when he won his most recent championship, even that version of LeBron is still a LeBron that you don't want to get under his skin and stir him up. Like you don't want to give him extra motivation to go out there and prove himself, because he called himself the GOAT. He called himself the chosen one. That's already motivation enough. You don't need to give that version of LeBron extra motivation. Today's version of LeBron, like you said, he can't really tap back into that mode where he can take over a game, drop like a 30-point triple-double. I don't know if we're going to see that anymore, like you said, but still, I think two things can be true. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. I think LeBron, I don't know if he'll ever admit it during his playing days, maybe when it's all said and done. I think he loves that shit. Like, I really think that, I know that when people always talk about, those psychotic, like, cutthroat killers of basketball, you think of Jordan, you think of Larry Bird, you think people think Luka Doncic is cut from that cloth. People argue Giannis is cut from that cloth, but no, Kobe as well. People never mention LeBron James, and I do think that there's some merit there. But like, you don't become the second greatest, some would argue the greatest basketball player of all time, and you aren't cut from that cloth.
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying? So I think that you see flashes of it from time to time, but again, LeBron for his career is bigger than basketball. LeBron is the biggest basketball player, like outside of basketball, during his playing career, if that makes sense. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like never before has there been a basketball player like LeBron who's had so much invested outside of basketball during his playing career like him. So I think you just don't see it because he maintains a persona. But dude, that man's a cold-blooded killer. I do believe that.
I do too. But
anyway,
for anyone wondering, the Lakers did win that game. They almost blew it.
They almost blew the lead. Yeah,
they did win. So.
I love how we didn't even mention who actually won the game. Yeah, they almost blew that lead. Shout out Jackson Hayes for that really cool and one poster dunk. That was a pretty Jackson. I became important at my job, Hayes.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, the Lakers are still rolling though. The Lakers are sitting at 3. They're in a tie with the Spurs right now. But I mean, they're both 7-3 in their last 10, which is kind of funny. So yeah, the Spurs are. The Lakers are still on a roll. I don't expect that really to change just because of how they're built. But I want to talk about do I want to talk about this? I don't know if I want to. I'll talk about it. I want to talk about another Pacific Division team. I kind of alluded to it. Dude, the Warriors are falling apart. They
are pretty chopped.
They are pretty. I mean, dude, your player's not even playing.
That's true. But
how many points did the Bucks score in the final 8 minutes of the fourth quarter against the Nets on Sunday?
I'll give you a hint. It's 1 less than 1 and 1 more than -1. That's how many they scored.
Sounds like both of our teams are chopped.
Yeah.
I'll talk about the Warriors, though, really quickly, because you brought it up beforehand. You just can't lose to a Timberwolves team without Anthony Edwards when Steph Curry plays the way that he played that night.
Yeah.
I understand that he missed a layup towards the end. But you just can't – hold on one second. You just can't lose that game. You just can't.
Yeah.
I don't want to blow my mic out this time, but you just can't lose that game. That's just not – and Steve Kerr even went out and said, I'm not doing my job well this year. Yeah, we know, bro. There's no – now, I'll say this. I've been a Steve Kerr believer, a Steve Kerr truther, Steve Kerr defender, if you will, for pretty much the entire time he's been the head coach of the Warriors. And ever since the 4th championship, the Warriors have kind of just been sitting middle of the pack since then. They have made the playoffs. They've won a couple series, which has been great. But Never once was there a season since the 4th championship where you thought the Warriors were the title favorites.
Yeah.
That's just how it's been. So I have thought that Steve Kerr's kind of maximized every team that they've had so far. But I think about the play and loss team when Klay Thompson gave us a whole lot of nothing.
4%.
Yeah. I think about that team and I think about this team, and it's just not a good team. Like it's not a good team, but it's in the teams. I would argue it's not fully Steve Kerr's fault because again, Dunleavy in the front office, bro, they've lost their way. Bob Myers saw the writing on the wall and dipped, which is fair. But the front office just is not giving them enough. But I will acknowledge as well, Steve Kerr just is not. He's kind of lost his touch a little bit because I understand that, you want to give it proper investment into the players that you drafted. But bro, Brandon Podziemski is just not cutting it. Brandon Podziemski is not cutting it. And I know that we're haters here, and I understand that, players just aren't always what they're billed as. Brandon Podziemski so far this season is that. He just has not been that second option guy that Steve Kerr clearly wants him to be. He just is not cut out for that right now. Now, the frustrating part, I wouldn't have an issue with it if the Warriors didn't have other options to substitute Podziemski with, but they do. Bro, Pat Spencer went on a tear on the last road streak, bro. He ended the Cleveland Cavs, bro.
Yeah.
Pat Spencer's been on a tear. Will Richard has shown flashes. Like, there's been viable substitutes that are, in my opinion, are thinking, okay, these guys are playing better than Podziemski. Let me put them in the lineup for this game. Just see how it goes. Let me try it out for 2 to 3 games. See how it goes. Because we're middle of the pack. We got to change something. We can't waste the last of Stephen Curry's career. This man can't go out like Kobe Bryant. Like, just not going to work. And yet, they keep Podziemski in the starting lineup, bro. Like, it's not working. It's clearly not working. And that's not even a knock. Like, I'm not even really dissing Pods because I do think that he is a good player. He just can't be option 2.
Yeah.
This isn't a Klay Thompson replacement. And he's not there to directly one-to-one replace Klay Thompson. But think about when the Warriors had Klay Thompson. That was undisputed option 2. And then when Klay started regressing post-injury, they had another option 2. It was Jordan Poole until he got punched in the face.
Yeah.
So ever since Klay Thompson's and Jordan Poole's departure, the Warriors have been void of option 2 because Draymond's not going to be option 2. So everybody thought it was going to be Kuminga, but after the contract this past offseason, they think they're going to ship him out too. So there's just no viable option 2. I'm not saying Pat Spencer or Will Richard are going to be viable option 2s in the long term. Again, you can't trust a man with 2 first names. But why not give them a chance?
Yeah.
That's my whole thing. So when Steve Kerr was like, I'm not doing my job well this year, everybody was like, yeah, we can see that.
Yeah. And the guy that you actually didn't bring up, which was sort of why we wanted to talk about the Warriors, like Jimmy Butler, where are you, bro? Like, what are you doing? Like, he is supposed to be that guy who's like option number 2, but like Jimmy literally, I don't know how to explain it. And I've never, players like this are so hard to explain because it's like literally they hoop good, they're aggressive. It's just like when they feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you look at his box score, his numbers aren't bad. Like 19 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Like those aren't bad second option numbers, but it's like you don't feel like our good friend Tony says, you don't feel those stats.
They're empty calorie stats. They're not needle moving.
Yeah.
They don't alter outcomes of games. Like,
yeah,
I agree. And I that's how much he's clearly made an impact because I was talking about, I immediately went to Pods' option 2 conversations, which is like clearly not what they're trying to do. And obviously you're not going to change Jimmy Butler's, stance as option 2, but like bring in like Pods isn't even really cutting it as option 3. Kuminga has more points on average than him right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, you look at Butler, like statistically he's shooting 50-45, almost 50-45. Like and 85% from the stripe. That should be like, if that's your option 2, you're like, wow. And Stephen Curry's option 1, wow, that's got to be a top 5 team in the Western Conference. It's not. It's not a top 5 team in the. What if I told you that was a sub 500 team in the Western Conference? Not even top 5, sub 500.
Yeah, it's
look
crazy.
At where we are now. Look how far the mighty have fallen.
And if you look at, if you just Google Jimmy Butler and then click on the little stats tab on Google, it shows you his last 10 games. And in most of these games, he's only even scoring the points he is because he's getting to the free throw line. Like in his last game against the Blazers, he only made 3 field goals, but he made 10 free throws, so he finished with 16. And then there's another game on here versus the Pelicans, 10 of 14. Another game versus the Trailblazers, 10 of 11. So it's like he's getting to the free throw line, but like he's not making other shots. Like he's not playing good enough. He's not making enough shots.
I mean, he's averaging almost 6 makes on 11.5 tries in terms of field goals. But yeah, it's just you can't even really blame. Like, I know I just went on this tirade about Pods, but like you can't even really blame Pods, bro. Like, Pods is the new guy. You're supposed to have somebody there to like, yeah. I don't know what's going on.
And did Al Horford just disappear? Like, what happened to Big Al? Where is he at?
Bro, he's not on the Celtics anymore. You should have seen that coming.
Like, what's wrong with him? He hasn't played since December 4th. It's December 18th. It's been 2 weeks. And in that game, he was 1 of 8, January 8th from the field. Like, what's going on? Like, this is Steph Curry. This is the Warriors' pitch to Steph Curry to stay here and try and win another championship. You stay on the Warriors, I present you with washed Al Horford and temperamental Jimmy Butler. Like, it's just not enough. And I understand why fans are getting frustrated and sending emails to Joe Lacob being like, yo, this team sucks. What are you going to do about it? I get it. I 100% get it. I'm going to start doing that too. I didn't even know you could email the owners. I might have to do that. I'll send an email to because funny enough, the Bucks ownership group, the Haslam family, they're the same team that owns the Browns. So maybe that's why they've gone into the gutter the last like year and a half. I'll send an email and ask for that Giannis trade. When's that Giannis trade coming? Maybe see if they'll respond to me.
Producer Ben's gonna love that clip. That's gonna be great. I don't know, man. It's just I don't like it. Steph Curry's not going anywhere. He will be retiring as a Golden State Warrior. But again, how Kobe Bryant ended his career with the Lakers, obviously it's a little bit different because he had the Achilles injuries. He had so many injuries towards the end of his career. But how the Lakers mishandled the final years of Kobe Bryant's career should be a warning to all other ownerships about how to handle the end of a superstar, a homegrown superstar's career. There are only so few of those in the NBA, and it's a dying breed because you think about who those players are now. Like Stephen Curry's one of them. You would argue that Luka was going to be one of them. Traded. Like it might be. Like Giannis, I can't even think
Giannis
of who
might stay in Milwaukee. He might stay there.
If Giannis doesn't stay, he won't be. Steph Curry might be the last of this breed.
Yeah.
Of a homegrown, stay loyal superstar. The last player who was like the last players that were like that left the NBA were Tim Duncan and Dirk.
Yeah.
Like Mavs and Spurs lifers, respectfully. So, like, and they did so right by the Spurs and the Mavs did so right by both of those guys. Like the Mavs brought in Luka, the Spurs brought in Kawhi. Obviously, in hindsight, that didn't work out too well. But in the moment, you were like, they're doing right by their team, by their players. Yeah. Oh, and Ginobili. Ginobili was another one. But you would think that you would learn from history, but they're not. It's just like, yeah, Steph Curry's getting up there in age. I think he turns 38 in March.
Yeah,
like
something like that.
I don't know if Steph Curry's going to play till as long as LeBron. Like what? LeBron turns 41 at the end of this year, 42.
Yeah.
Like, I think he turns 41. Like, I don't know if Steph's going to want to play till he's 41. I know he has said that he hasn't thought about the end yet, but that's all the more reason why you shouldn't just mail it in and just throw out whatever the hell this team is, bro.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, again, there's a lot of nuances to it. I understand that, but I'm not going to sit here and listen to people tell me and be like, oh, it's too complicated to make that change. Bro, no, it's not. Like, you have good pieces on your team. And whether you want to point the finger at Steve Kerr or you want to point the finger at a lack of an option 2 on the core, or you want to point the finger at Mike Dunleavy or Joe Lacob, like, regardless, bro, like, let's go make a change. You got to go make a move because the Warriors have done a whole lot of what? Nothing. That's it. I'm done. I'm done with my rant.
The resurgence starts tonight at Suns.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Let's see if they can.
You ready for Dylan Brooks to beef with Draymond?
Dude, your guys. Did the NBA give you the hardest schedule in the league? You got the Suns twice, then you got Orlando, and then you got Dallas. I mean, like, they're starting to kind of find their groove a little bit. Cooper Flag, 40.
Shout out Cooper Flag, 40. Was it 42 points?
Game ever.
First 18-year-old to score 40. Yeah, that was insane, dude. Yeah, so what happens when they're not running him at point guard all the time?
Yeah, and then you got Toronto too. Like, the Mavs game is on Christmas Day, by the way.
Isn't that in San Francisco?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Your guys' schedule stuff. But it's been that way the whole year, though.
The whole thing. Well, no. So the whole thing about the Warriors' schedule is that the 2025 part of the season is really challenging, but it gets easier in 2026.
Okay.
Like, because you're playing all the road. You think about the Eastern Conference road trip that they've gone on already and what they're going to go on upcoming. Like, naturally, it leaves you with way more home games than road games for the rest of the season, of course. But the question is, are the Warriors ever going to be competitive to make a run? Like, are they going to be so far in the gutter that it won't matter? They can't catch up. So I don't know. They're still sitting at, like, it's not that ridiculous right now. They're sitting tied with the Grizzlies at 13 and 14. So it's not like they're out of the race entirely, but there's such a staunch drop off from, like, the top of the Western Conference to everybody else.
Yep.
So I don't know. It's whatever. I don't really want to. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Do you have anything to say about the Bucks before we go? I want to give you your window to talk about the Bucks.
Dude, I think I've said everything I needed to say about the state of Bucks basketball. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. After they beat the Celtics when we recorded that episode last week, they lost to the Nets on Sunday, a team that their best player is Michael Porter Jr. Like, he's a podcaster. He's not even a real basketball player. Cam Thomas actually is also like Jimmy Butler, where he only plays good when he feels like it. And then you don't even know who all these other guys on the roster are. They couldn't even score. They scored 82 points against the Nets. They didn't score in the final 8 minutes of the game, and they lost by 45 points. And then Doc Rivers is talking about after the game about some soul searching to do. Like, bro, there's no soul searching needed. Just trade Giannis and let's get this show on the road. That's all that needs to happen.
I don't know who wants out of Milwaukee more, Giannis or you.
Dude, it's probably me at this point. I don't know how much more I can tell people that I root for a basketball team that plays in Wisconsin. I don't know how much more I can handle it. Get Giannis to South Beach or New York or the Bay Area or something.
You'll get your answer soon, brother.
Yeah.
Before we go, I want to you talked about you mentioned this to me beforehand. How Adam Silver did not make a comment about Oklahoma City's foul baiting, but did make a comment praising the NBA on Prime crew for their coverage. So obviously that's part of the ratings. That's been part of, like, the ratings have been up. I argue, again, look at the beauty of competition. I don't go to just ESPN now for coverage. I go to NBC. I think I've loved the NBC coverage when it doesn't black out my own home team's game because they want to put it on the national broadcast. Other than that, I thought it's been great. But what have been your takeaways on coverage from other groups?
I think it's been great as well. And I mean, I think even ESPN's NBA coverage, I think it's good. I think it's very entertaining. It serves a purpose to entertain fans and get them excited about the game. But in terms of actually understanding more about basketball and learning the ins and outs of the game, that's where I think Prime and NBC just blow everyone else out of the water. Because look at Prime, you got and they bring in like a bunch of analysts. So like Taylor Rooks is the host or moderator or whatever. Dirk Nowitzki's there, Blake Griffin, and Steve Nash is the other one. And I think they all do a great job of breaking down the game and explaining. That's where I picked up on, I've mentioned it multiple weeks now about the whole foul baiting stuff, because I watched a clip of Steve Nash basically explaining how Luka and Shea draw fouls. So I think they're doing a great job explaining the ins and outs of the game. And I think the NBC coverage has been really good too, because I think Vince Carter, even though he's a walking meme, I love Vince Carter has ball knowledge. Like, that dude knows ball.
I'd hope he'd have ball knowledge. Dude, he played in the league for 3 different decades.
And then Tracy
4 different decades.
And then Tracy McGrady and Carmelo Anthony too. Like that, even that group of guys together is just really good for the league, because you have people who they were like, when they were balling like in their peak, at least for Vince Carter and T-Mac, that was a little before our time. Like, we got to see Prime Melo, but like people grew up on those 3 guys, like Vince Carter, T-Mac, and Carmelo. So like seeing those guys on TV together, breaking down the game, I think has been really, really good for the league. And I think it also goes into this too. Like, we love the inside the NBA crew. Like, they're entertaining as well. They break down the game good too, but it's refreshing when you don't have to go and watch basketball coverage and hear people like Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley. For as much as they know about basketball, like, those dudes are some haters. Like, they hate on the game way too much. And I think it's bad for the fans, because if you're legends of the game and all you do is shit on the new players and say how soft they are, like how they would have been bad if they played in different eras, like, it gets to a point where when you hear that, it's like, why as a fan should I want to watch the NBA when all of these legends of the game are basically saying it's not even worth your time because it doesn't touch what it was like in the 80s and 90s. So it's been a great blend of like personalities on TV, how the product is presented to the fans, and then just teaching people about the ins and outs of basketball. I think both NBC and Prime have done a great job at all of those things.
Agreed. I also just, again, the beauty of competition in markets like this. Like, yeah, I would argue, I mean, you could argue that ESPN hasn't really changed that much. The only main difference is that I don't think Stephen A is on Inside the NBA anymore. But
or like Countdown or whatever.
Yeah, NBA Countdown, that's what I meant. But you would argue ESPN probably hasn't changed that much, but because there's so much more competition, they've been forced to ramp up, which I just think is great, and it benefits nobody more, in my opinion, than the fans. Second is the NBA itself, but
yeah,
you know, as much flack as I gave at the beginning of the season and continue to give about the price for all of this stuff, I do think that the product has been great for the fans that are able to watch it. And of course, you know, you use alternative means if necessary, but yeah, I would agree. The product has been good. It's been a pleasant surprise, actually, which, you know, I know me and NBC got off on the wrong foot to start the year, but they have since recovered in my book.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll get back to it because, you know, the games are starting back up. I get to watch more Warriors basketball tonight. I'm so excited. Can you not see the excitement on my face?
And then who knows when I'll watch another Bucks game again? Probably, maybe never. Like, maybe Giannis gets traded, and then
maybe never.
The last game that I watched was when he got hurt against the Pistons. Who knows? We'll see.
You just never know. That's the beauty of it. And you got to watch the games to really know.
Yeah.
That's all we got for this episode of the Professional Hate Watching Association. Thank you again so much for watching. For Daniel, I'm Ethan. We will see you in the next episode.